Recently, I've talked about the bathhouse that we want to build, and the bathhouse has turned into a tiny house. And the plans are kind of evolving and shifting, and it's basically going to be the same layout, just bigger. So it's going to be kind of the tiny house that we eventually could move into and then sell our camper, stay in the tiny house until we could build a small house. Now, because the bathhouse is going to be eventually more of like a tiny house, we still have that in the works. But in the meantime, we're going to have to put a little shed, which we already needed. We already were going to do it, but we're now going to focus our efforts on building a small shed with that metal frame that I showed you in the bathhouse video. And that's going to be kind of a dual purpose thing. So winter is going to be here before we know it, just like it always is. And we need to be ready with a warm place, like a birthing stall / a warm little nook for our lambs to be able to go into. We also need a place for our tools, which are getting destroyed because storage is just kind of okay, shoving things in totes under the camper. And on one end of the shed, we are going to partly enclose to make like a lamb birthing stall like we talked about. So we're thinking in this general area here. This is currently where we have the sheep, and that is so that they can clear this area. Originally, we were thinking about putting the shed across from the garden, but now we're thinking, because we wanted a greenhouse next to that, well, where that pallet is, and we'll talk about what's in that pallet in just a second. We want a greenhouse right there, and we were going to put the shed on one side and build the greenhouse on the other side, but I'm thinking that that would actually prevent the afternoon light from getting to the greenhouse, which in the winter can be really important. So being really cognizant of the sun and where the sun hits, we're probably going to put the shed more of like in this spot right here. You can see on to the right of those pallets, we did clear out a bunch of stuff. The left still needs to be cleared out, and we're going to actually focus more closer to our potty compost pile there. We moved all of these trees. We pulled them with my car, tied with straps, and we dragged the trees all to one big burn pile, and my husband set it on fire with his torch there. Then that metal frame will go probably in that spot. Here's a better look at the spot that we're still kind of mulling over, but it's pretty flattish. And then we're hoping that this whole area here can be enclosed with a fence, and that way the lamb tractor can still be a thing, but that way the sheep, if we need to be gone for a couple days, they could just be happy roaming around in this whole area through the woods, like a big rectangle, if you can picture that. So what is this pile of stuff here? This is the compost pile from the people who lived here previously. It has been sitting here for over a year. Obviously, it's healthy. It's got stuff growing out of it. And we are clearing this whole area around it. And then we're going to dig a big hole and open her up and spread it all out. But because it's somebody else's compost pile, my husband has been cautious about just ripping it apart and dumping it everywhere, because we do have animals and we do have kids. And that's the last thing you want to have your 2-year-old stepping in and then tromping through the house. Let's peek inside. I won't tell if you won't tell. Hold on, is a raccoon gonna jump out at me? You know, it just looks like, ooh, something's moving. It just looks like dirt. I kind of want to poke it with a stick, but I can't. I'm holding the phone with one hand, and I'm holding this with the other. Yeah. Well, that's good news. It looks just like dirt. So if we can avoid digging a big hole, then maybe we can just spread it out into the woods. I think this area is going to be great for that little shed. It's not going to be insulated. It's just going to be put up quickly. As with anything else on the homestead, plans shift and they grow and they change. So we shall see what comes of this, but stick around and I think you'll be seeing something come up pretty soon.